From the beginning of time, man has always been smart, and in our quest to solve problems, evolve, and find easier ways to do both the simple and complicated tasks in our day-to-day activities, we have invented some impressive technologies. In our study of the past, we have uncovered many ancient technologies, some of which were invented thousands of years ago and still work till this day. These inventions still astound modern scientists, even with our advanced knowledge of science. From the composition of these inventions, the functions and the method of operation of these technological inventions, scientists still remain confused even after years of study. Join us as we take you through 15 most ancient and abandoned technologies that really exist. Number 15, the automatic doors of ancient Greece. We kickstart this list with one of the most impressive ancient technologies ever discovered, the automatic door. Although the first modern automatic door that we all know today was invented in the year 1931 by two American engineers, Horace H. Raymond and Sheldon S. Roby. They designed the first optical device that could open an automatic door for a restaurant to help the waiters carrying plates and glasses. However, the first automatic door dates back to the 1st century AD, invented by Heron of Alexandria, a mathematician who lived in ancient Egypt and was interested in the practical applications of mathematics. The automatic door used a hydraulic system to open and close. The system of operation was pretty simple: a brass pot, some containers, and a pulley system. The brass pot, half filled with water, would suspend over a fire. As the water heats up, air builds up inside the brass pot, forcing water to flow into the containers. The weight of these containers would activate the pulley system and open the automatic doors. Heron's automatic doors were installed at the temple and were opened once a day when the worshippers arrived, a process that would take hours from the lighting of the altar fire to the opening of the doors. Although this ancient automatic door wasn't as functional as modern automatic doors, it was still a marvel to everyone at the time and still remains a marvel till this day. Number 14, Roman concrete. Many ancient Roman architecture remain objects of fascination to many of us in the modern world. From the ancient temple of Maison Carrée, which was built around 16 BC and still remains completely preserved till this day, to the famous Roman Colosseum built in 80 AD. Many of these structures still retain their structural integrity, even after years of exposure to rainfall, sunlight, and many other weather conditions, leaving scientists wondering what made the Roman concrete so strong. Researchers have been fascinated for years with this amazing invention and how we can harness it to make it stronger and more durable architecture in our modern world. Take, for example, the famed Pantheon of Rome, the world's largest unreinforced concrete building, which was dedicated in 125 AD, is still standing till this day. Now, there is no building in this modern world that can last that long and still be intact because modern concrete disintegrates and cracks with wear and tear, weather conditions, and the process of time. For years, scientists were confused as to what made Roman concrete so strong, and many theories were proposed. For many years, researchers attributed this unique strength to the addition of volcanic ash to the concrete. The Romans were the first to add volcanic ash to concrete, an astounding discovery at the time, so it made sense, while others claimed lime was the ingredient responsible. However, a team of researchers from MIT and Harvard, Italy, and Switzerland, led by a man named Admir Masick, a civil engineer professor in MIT, discovered some bright white minerals they called lime clasts in the concrete. These scientists discovered that ancient Roman concrete had self-healing properties, so it could easily fill in the cracks as they form. This amazing property was made possible by a process called hot mixing, which creates concrete that forms reactive calcium. When these concrete structures get cracked and water enters these cracks, it dissolves the lime clast, which recrystallizes as calcium carbonate and glues the crack back together, while also reacting with the ash to increase the strength. Number 13, the Iron Pillars of Delhi. Up next is the Iron Pillar of Delhi, a 23 feet tall structure within the courtyard of the Quwwat-ul-Islam Mosque in New Delhi, the oldest mosque in northern India. The pillar, which is about 1,600 years old, looks like an ordinary pillar at first glance, but with close study, you begin to realize why this amazing ancient structure deserves a place on this list. You see, it is made of iron, and as great as iron is a structural material, it is susceptible to rust, which means over time it begins to wither. However, this pillar has remained remained strong as ever, and without any rust whatsoever. This amazing property has amazed researchers for years, many of who question its origin, as it could be a pointer to why it's still standing till this day. Many claimed it was of alien origin, or a mythical object sent on Earth by the gods. And also, scientists have propounded many theories to explain this metallurgical wonder. However, the inscriptions on its shaft tell the story of its origin. King Chandra, who ruled in the Gupta Empire around the 4th and 7th AD, instructed that the pillar be built as a monument in celebration of his many victories in war and to be dedicated to the Hindu god Vishnu. Number 12, Plato's alarm clock. Next on this list is Plato's alarm clock. Most of us own an alarm clock, that device beside your bed that you both love and hate. But did you know that the first alarm clock in history was invented by Plato, a Greek philosopher who lived between 428 BC to 348 BC? Plato owned a water clock, the type of clock that was popular back in ancient Greece, and he modified it to chime at certain times of the day. In a water clock, water drips from one vessel to the other through a small hole, and as long as the size of the vessel remains the same, the clock counts down an amount of time. Plato altered this design to achieve his own aim by adding a tube to the filling vessel. The last vessel has a small opening and lets out a whistling sound as it fills up, effectively waking Plato up at the set time. Although the design of Plato's alarm clock wasn't as intricate and sophisticated as modern alarm clocks, it still worked effectively, and many people who used the alarm clock woke up on time. Number 11, Da Vinci's Tank. The world has witnessed genius in its purest form throughout history, but very few men have been as impressive as Leonardo da Vinci. An Italian polymath who lived between the years 1452 and 1519, he excelled as a painter, an engineer, a draftsman, a scientist, a sculptor, and an architect. While he is more widely known for his paintings, many of which are some of the rarest and most priceless artifacts in the world today, Da Vinci is also famous for his inventions. One of his lesser-known inventions, though, is the first armored vehicle, which he designed in 1487. The Da Vinci tank marked one of his most innovative inventions, changing the way modern warfare worked forever. As contained in his notebook, the Codex Atlanticus, the design of the armored vehicle was an astounding feat, as it was designed to intimidate and decimate an opposing army. The design includes a circular platform, mounted on 4 wheels, powered and controlled by a crew of 8. This war machine was covered by a protective shell, which was inspired by the tortoise shell, and had a sloping surface to deflect enemy fire. Considering the fact that the first modern tank was invented in the year 1915, this piece of ancient engineering is a marvel and has been lauded as the prototype for the design of the modern tank. However, Leonardo da Vinci was a pacifist at heart, which begs the question as to why he decided to invent such a weapon of destruction. The answer is simple. In order to seek the patronage of the leaders of his days, including the Duke of Milan, Ludovico Sforza, and Cesare Borgia, to whom he lent his skill as a war engineer, he had to make something that would interest them. Therefore, he decided to make a machine that would protect the soldiers and wreak havoc on their enemies, armed with cannons round the vehicle. It was designed to be both a weapon of offense and defense. However, there is no known historical record as to whether Da Vinci's tank concept was ever used in war, as it had a couple of design flaws. Number 1, the gear mechanism was designed in such a way that it would go forward and backwards at the same time, leaving the tank immobile. Number 2, the weight of the shell, the cannon, and the crew would be too much for a moving platform, which made it impractical in warfare. The fact that it would be man-powered is also a design flaw, as it would be too slow and useless in war. Many speculate that Da Vinci, in all his genius, could not have made the errors by mistake, and propose that it could have all been an intentional flaw in order to make sure his invention was not used to hurt other people. Number 10, the first robot ever made. In recent times, there have been giant strides made in the world of robotics and automation. But did you know that one of the first automated inventions was made as far back as 1562 and still runs till this day? The ancient clockwork monk is a 15-inch high figure of a popular miraculous monk, San Diego de Alcala. In 1562, King Philip II, the son of Emperor Charles V, fell down a flight of stairs and became very ill due to the injuries he sustained. The emperor then then prayed to God for a miracle, so his son's life could be spared, and he could recover quickly, promising a miracle for a miracle. In a few days, his son began to get better and recover from all his injuries, so the emperor instructed Jualeno Turiano, his mechanic, that this automated monk be made as a symbol of faith and prayers. This 450-year-old piece of ancient technology performs a wide variety of movements, including walking in a square, kissing the rosary, beating its chest, nodding its head, rolling its eyes, and so on. It walks around as if in prayer and meditation with the aid of brilliant ancient engineering, and stands as one of the most impressive ancient technologies ever discovered. Number 9. The longest-running science experiment. Next on this list is an amazing technological invention that is still functional till date and has been running for almost 200 years. Purchased by Robert Walker, a clergyman and physicist, the Oxford electric bell, also known as Clarendon dry pile, is an experimental electric bell that holds the Guinness World Record for the most durable battery. Although the design doesn't look like much, this experiment consists of two candle-like parts, which are stacks of thin metal discs coated with damp paste and sealed with sulfur. It was designed to propel a hanging metal back and forth between two small bells, resulting in the ringing, which fortunately is barely audible because the charge is so low. So, what is the composition of these batteries that make them last this long? We simply do not know. In order to study the content of this piece of ancient technology, scientists would have to tamper with an experiment that has run since 1840. This would be a price too high to pay, as we would then never know how long the battery could have lasted had it not been tampered with. Therefore, the secret of the Oxford electric bell will remain a mystery until the battery finally runs out on its own, which some scientists say could be 10 years or less, bringing an end to the longest-running experiment in history. But for now, it chimes inaudibly, as the metal ball delicately vibrates between the two bells, as it has done for over 10 billion times, an impressive feat of ancient technology and engineering. Number 8. The universal antidote. The history of the universal antidote, also known as Mithridatum, dates back to 63 BC, when Mithridates VI, the king of Pontus on the Black Sea, made himself immune to poison by taking an antidote which he made himself. This mythical remedy is made up of to 65 ingredients and works effectively as an antidote to all forms of poison. Mithridates fortified himself as he was paranoid and constantly worried that someone might poison him. This worked so well that even when he wanted to end his life, he couldn't find any poison that could work on him, and according to legend, had to ask a soldier to take his life by the sword. Mithridates' fear of being poisoned originated from the fact that his father had died of poisoning, a death that some claimed was orchestrated by his mother. He then held regency over Pontus until a male heir was of age. However, his other brother was constantly in competition with him and was favored by their mother. Suspecting that his mother had been adding little poison to his food because he felt small pains after meals, he escaped to the wilderness. There he ingested non-lethal levels of poison and concocted his amazing universal antidote, which is still an object of marvel till date. Number 7. The Pyramids of Egypt. This list would be incomplete without mentioning one of the strangest, most mysterious, and awe-inspiring ancient structures, the Pyramids of Egypt. The technologies that ensure the construction of the pyramids is a subject of wild speculations, including theories of alien involvement, as the construction of such a structure by human hands seem an epic task of great proportion, especially in ancient times. There are around 138 pyramids in Egypt, many of them still intact for human observation till date. The largest of them all is the Pyramid of Giza, also called the Pyramid of Khufu, which was built as the tomb of Pharaoh Khufu, who ruled during the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom. This magnificent edifice stands at 481 feet and was the tallest man-made structure in the world for over 3,800 years and is one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. How these pyramids were built still remains a mystery, but scientists have suggested that these pyramids were built by thousands of slaves over many years. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, is believed to have taken over 20,000 slaves over 26 years to complete. As these pyramids tend to be the final resting place of these rulers, they tend to start construction as soon as they ascend the throne. The oldest known pyramid was built in 2630 BC for King Djoser at Saqqara, and using the pyramid as a burial site for Egyptian pharaohs became a norm after King Djoser. Inside the pyramids are rooms and chambers where the kings and queens are buried, chambers where their families are buried, and temples. Number 6. Flexible glass. Coming in at number 6 is the flexible glass, an invention whose existence has remained a mystery. Three sources corroborate the story of this flexible glass: Petronius's Satyricon, Pliny's Natural History, and Dio Cassius's Roman History. In 63 AD, Petronius published the story of a glassmaker who presented a drinking bowl made out of mysterious material to Emperor Tiberius, a type of glass that couldn't break. It was thrown on the floor, but it didn't break, just a little dented, and this was easily corrected with the help of a little hammer, which the glassmaker kept in his pocket. However, till date, the components of the flexible glass remain an unsolved mystery. Over time, scientists have speculated over what the secret ingredient of the flexible glass is, but no one has been able to come up with a perfect recipe. This can be attributed to the fact that the glassmaker who invented the flexible glass ended up beheaded and his workshop destroyed, because the king didn't want to have another precious material in the market competing with gold and silver. Also, the validity of the story is a subject of question, as Pliny, who published his own version of the story much later than Petronius, stated that the story could have been hearsay. Now, it's time for today's subscriber pick. In our study of ancient history, we have discovered many ancient technologies, many of which have sparked controversial discussions as to whether they were of earthly origin or they had extraterrestrial origin. Many of these theories have been disproved by scientists, and the claims set aside as nothing but science fiction-inspired fantasies. But this time, it seems we may have discovered real alien technology. Using an underwater sonar device, scientists have discovered a 100,000-year-old pyramid-shaped structure deep in the Pacific Ocean. This allegedly massive structure is one of the biggest mysteries in ancient technologies, as no information regarding its source, location, use, or component has ever been released to the public, except for this photo, which is just a representation of what scientists believe it must have looked like. What do you think it looks like? Do you think it's an alien technology? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Number 5. The world's oldest lens. Next, we have the Nimrud lens, which is the oldest lens in the world. It is an impressive piece of ancient technology, although its function still remains a subject of debate. The Nimrud lens, also known as the layered lens, was likely used as a magnifying glass, making it the first ever form of microscope in history. However, some scientists have debated the practical application of this at the time. Some also claim that it could have been used as a burning glass to start fires, or as just a decorative object. There are also others who claim that the Nimrud lens may not have had any practical application at the time, and the optical properties were just accidental, not a product of intentional design. Because the lens is made from a natural rock, it has remained fairly intact over time, and has hardly deteriorated. It is fairly small in size, slightly oval, measuring 1.5 inches in diameter and roughly ground, perhaps on a lapidary wheel. It has a focal point of about 4.33 inches and a focal length of 4.72 inches, which makes it equivalent to a 3 times magnifying glass. The Nimrud lens was most likely created between 750 and 710 BC. It was unearthed in 1850 by Sir John Layard at the Assyrian palace of Nimrud, which explains the names. This 3,000-year-old artifact has also been called the oldest telescope in the world, but that claim is also under scrutiny. Sir John Layard, who discovered the lens, suggested that the lens was probably used by craftsmen when making intricate engravings, such as those found on seals and clay tablets. However, archaeology experts are not convinced of this presumed use, as the Nimrud lens is of such a low quality that it couldn't have been used to aid vision. Another clue we have to its use is found in The Clouds, a play written by Aristophanes 424 BC, where he referred to the beautiful transparent stone with which they light fires. This suggests that the Nimrud lens was a burning glass used to start fires in ancient times. Number 4. Damascus Steel. Coming in at number 4 is the Damascus Steel. This mythical material, which earned its fame during the times of Alexandria the Great, was greatly imported from India, Sri Lanka, and Syria. This special steel, called woots, an iron ore with a high level of carbon, was used to make weapons that were impressive lightweight yet very strong, and has the characteristic. It is unclear how the Damascus steel got its name, with many speculations including its reference to steel made in Damascus. This would be inaccurate, as Damascus steel wasn't exclusively made in Damascus. According to historians, it was most likely developed in several places, from Indonesia to the Middle East. The swords forged from this special steel tend to retain an edge through battle after battle, as if it was forged with magic. Blades forged from Damascus steel look like something out of a Game of Thrones movie, some component of which is thought to inspire, including the Valyrian steel, which is the rare White Walker thwarting material from the 1996 Game of Thrones novel written by George R.R. Martin. What makes this piece of ancient technology more impressive is the fact that the process of making it is a lost art, and we really don't know how far off the Damascus steel blades we make today are from the ancient ones. This was due to the replacement of swords with firearms and the constant depletion of the quarries where Woods was mined from. These blades were impressively sharp and were reported to be able to easily cut through fruits mid-air. These blades would not dull easily, even after much use through battles and wars. They were also impressively strong compared to normal steel. As at the year 1850, the process of making authentic Damascus steel has become a lost art. In the early 1900s, production stopped when Liège, a city in Belgium, which had produced 771 metric tons of Damascus barrels, fell into the hands of the German army, who invaded the city in World War I in 1914. Modern scientists, however, have tried to recreate this impressive material, but ancient Damascus steel can never be recreated, in part due to the fact that the secrets of making these strong and beautiful materials were jealously guarded, and majorly due to the fact that the Woods, the special steel, has dried up. Many methods have been discovered on how to make modern Damascus steel, including powder metallurgy, working with two grades of steel to create the characteristic pattern and a color variation. Number 3. Ancient freezers. At number 3, we have the Persian ancient freezers, or yakchals, which translates as ice pit. This marvel was created by Persian engineers around 400 BC and is such an impressive feat because, unlike modern refrigerators and freezers, it doesn't use electricity and is built outside. In order to make ice and keep it frozen in the desert, these brilliant minds designed a system that could keep food fresh, preserve their meat, and chill delicacies for their royalties on a hot summer day. At first glance, these ancient freezers look nothing like their function, but they worked so well that many yakchals in Iran, Afghanistan, and many parts of West and Central Asia are still standing till this day. They were also relatively easy and cheap to make, so much so that even the poor of the day could afford them. On the outside, it is made up of a mud-like structure that looks like an inverted ice cream cone, which was made waterproof using a type of mortar called saroj, made from clay, sand, ash, goat hair, and lime. The collection area for the water is also dug deep enough to keep cool, and insulating materials are used when making these ancient freezers in order to keep the heat out. These yakchals were kept cool using a wind-catching device called the badgear, a type of wind-catching mechanism which catches the breeze and diverts it down into the yakchal. As the air goes down, it would get cooled by the ice as well as the cold air which accompanied the water in the kanat, an underground tunnel system that brings groundwater or spring water to the Earth's surface using only gravitational force. This was an impressive technological invention and remains an impressive piece till this day, utilizing the weather changes in the desert region, hot days and cold nights, to keep ice frozen and food fresh. Number 2. Ancient submarine. Since the beginning of time, men have always loved to conquer the seas. According to archaeological data, the oldest ships date as far back as 8200 to 7600 BC. This was essential for transportation, trade, and warfare. An invention that came around much later, though, was the submarine. And although our conquest of the deep sea has made impressive strides in recent times, the account of the first submarine ever made was documented by the Mughal poet Amir Khusru. In 332 BC, he wrote a story that was thought to have taken place almost 2,000 years before the writing. Through his finely crafted illustration, he tells the story of how Alexander the Great descended into the sea using a diving bell during the siege of Tyre in 332 BC. Although this story remains unverified and is considered a legend, it was the first time on record that man attempted to move underwater. Much later on, in 1578, an Englishman named William Bourne designed a prototype for the submarine, but it is unknown if the submersible ever made it to production. It was designed to be an closed wooden boat covered in leather. However, it would have been mechanically complex for its time and included screw threads, adjustable plungers, and cranksets. The first military submarine was built in 1720 by Yefim Nikonov on the orders of Peter the Great of Russia. The major aim was stealth, as this underwater vessel could approach an enemy target without being detected and would launch a combustible mixture at targets through tubes that stuck out to the surface. Even though it had an impressive design, it however couldn't be built and was cancelled due to the death of Peter the Great in 1725. Modern submarines have come a long way in functionality and design, but these ancient technologies paved the way for the impressive machinery of war and exploration that we see today. Number 1. Greek fire. Last on this list of incredible ancient inventions is the Greek fire, a weapon of mass destruction and much speculation. In the 17th century, the Greek Byzantine Empire was a world power, with a land that spanned all of southern Europe, North Africa, and Asia Minor. This attracted many enemies, including the Islamic forces of the Prophet Muhammad, who had taken over parts of Syria. Invented by Kallinikos of Heliopolis, a Jewish architect who fled from Syria to Constantinople and was growing constantly worried of invasion by the Arabs. He experimented with many substances before coming up with this mythical incendiary weapon. He then went ahead to present it to the emperor, who commissioned his engineers to design a siphon which worked like a sponge, propelling the flammable liquid towards the enemy ship. Prior to the development of this special fire, many other incendiary weapons had been in use during war, but this one was especially impressive because it could burn on water and was very effective in naval warfare. The Byzantine Empire became unstoppable and unconquerable due to their secret weapon, and would decimate enemy ships on the sea, burning cities to the ground from a safe distance, with a fire that could not be quenched with water. The fire stuck to whatever surface it touched, and could only be quenched by a mixture of vinegar, sand, and old urine. This special weapon saved Constantinople from invasion by the Arabs on many occasions, and because of this, the enemies sought after the secrets of the Greek fire. Many speculations were made, many experiments done, but none could replicate the effectiveness of this amazing concoction. Even after the empire was captured, the secret of the Greek fire was never discovered. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.